Hi, welcome to Plantation Life today. We're here with the Arsenals. They own a plantation down on
Our family of Comlong.
and they're here to join us today. Welcome, Arsenals.
It's good to be
hello.
here.
I'm Jean-Jacques Arsenault, the head of the family.
And
These
I'm-
are my two children, Andre and Maddie. I lead a pretty good life. I own a plantation with 100 slaves. I live in a great house which is low to the ground to prevent from natural disasters and other difficulties. I own around 70 field slaves and 30 elite slaves. And the elite slaves I trust very much, and therefore I allow them in and around my house. I have a very good diet consisting of all the fresh produce from the land, and in general, my life is pretty good.
Yeah, he says that, but we suffer. Come on, admit it, we suffer. Look at our house. It's 1 story tall. Our great house is 1 story tall. Come on, it's nothing compared to our house back in France, right? And we have to trade this our luxuries for safety, which shouldn't have to happen because these slaves we always need to protect against a sudden attack. So we had to optimize the security. We had to elevate the house with stone steps to prevent against sudden Negro attacks. And the heat is just blinding because there's no open airy halls. It's very small and it's terrible. Although he is right in that the quality of food here is very good.
Okay, you say your life is really good, yours is miserable, but mine's really boring, because you lock me in my room and you're the slaves are gonna attack you, so
But there is a revolt on the
There's
cards.
absolutely
okay,
a revolt.
Mom's always better to be safe than sorry, but why don't you let me go out to the garden?
So, sounds like you guys have a pretty nice life. What would be your basic daily concern? Something you worry about?
Well, in addition to the slave revolt, which we have spoken about, there is the overwhelming heat and disease. Malaria has killed 30 of my best slaves, leaving us very short-handed on making sugar, and a heat stroke killed my best overseer, Pierre, and I had to work for days making sure that the slaves were producing sugar in the right amounts for the great nation of France.
Right, hold on. Don't underplay the slave revolt thing. That's definitely in the cards. That's, it's our biggest threat day to day. We should worry about this. There's survival, there's surviving, there, yes sir, but I see nothing more than filthy, diseased Negroes. Seriously, there will be nothing more than that. It's fortunate that they lack the intelligence for such a covert operation. The best they could do is with brute force, but still, that's something we have to fear. There's enough of them to overpower us, but, we have to be prepared for these acts of rebellion. And, of course, the diseases are a major issue, but the slave revolts are the number one thing we must watch out for.
Wait, you're concerned about Pierre and you're concerned about the slave revolts. What about our family? That's our biggest concern, I think. I mean, we have diseases and all you choose to do is lock me up in my room and you force me to spend time with my brother who's too much concerned about the slaves that are going to come, which I think I'm fairly protected by because in my grand home.
So you're talking a lot about how the slaves have the threat of revolt has become a recent problem. Can you attribute this to anything? Perhaps voodoo? I heard that it's been a recent problem. Could you explain that?
Voodoo is a terrible religion. They have terrible rituals, and it is not Christianity. We must follow Christianity here. It has become a form of resistance to the slaves, and the slaves should have no form of resistance. This must be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. The further they deviate from Christianity, the more barbaric they become. Their gods, they empower the slaves to become these chaotic, violent savages, which, they already are, but we're doing a great job as civilized Europeans. It's our duty to kind of suppress them and instill civilization in them. So when they practice this voodoo, we must suppress this, definitely.
So is there anything being done by, say, the government to really control these slaves?
Such as the Black Code. There is an old code which was enforced by the French government, which makes them our property as we have bought them and allows us to reprimand them as we please if they act out against us. This code needs to perhaps be reinforced, but we can still use it today to keep our slaves under control from a revolt.
Yeah, I totally agree. As we were talking about it, I think it should be renewed and because it's kind of like an outdated thing and people don't really take it into strong consideration. But I think that it's a great way to kind of divide our roles and responsibilities, and it keeps everyone under control.
So you've talked a lot regarding the slaves, but what about the other social classes? For example, the affranchis, I've heard, have become a more prominent member of Hispaniolan society.
Right, that's a good question. You know, the affranchis, they say they're free blacks. They don't deserve that freedom. They're nothing more than by some miracle, they're still Negroes that got their freedom somehow by some miracle. It doesn't mean they're on our level at all. Just because they're in these fancy suits or these top hats and they look all shiny and new does not mean they have the same mental capacity as us. They can't do the same jobs as us. They just can't. So by the day, their numbers are increasing, and that's become a huge problem.
I think that we must kind of prove, like, I think we need to prove to them. We already proved to them that we're much higher than them, but I think it should be enforced more. And I think that through like the petite blancs, we should I think they're much higher than the affranchis, and I don't think the affranchis deserve to come and just suddenly claim their power.
So you have this fear of a slave revolt, and yet the plantation business has never been more lucrative. So, with all things considered, what do you think of the future? What do you think is realistic? What are your hopes? Are you pessimistic or optimistic? Tell me.
I hope that in the future there will be no slave revolt. These slaves have it better here than the peasants do in Europe, so they have no reason to complain at all. I pray to God that there is no revolt and that we can continue with this lucrative plantation and continue to produce sugar for the great nation of France.
You know, absolutely. I don't think a total collapse of this system is really going to happen. You know, these Negroes, they lack the mental capacity simply to coordinate and really overthrow us, especially with our superior intelligence and wealth. We have the tools we need to suppress this. What I do fear, I'm a little bit pessimistic about, these isolated incidents, because through manner of brute force, the slaves can just overtake us. There's 100 of them, there's 3 of us. There's only so much we can do to stop that. So really, I think the most important thing is to be prepared, and we can continue this plantation business as long as possible.
I think I'm fairly protected by my family and all this, but I think that I myself should be cautious about the slave revolt, and I just hope that I can kind of escape it and kind of not take part in it, as I see that it is a growing force.
So unfortunately, that's all the time we have today, but it was great having you on the show.
It's good to be here.
Good to be here.